Hey there, nation. Welcome to Commander Cheapskate Battle Report number 4 of the Tercio campaigns. This is a continuation of the idea of using the Tercio tactic of my Empire army build, and this is Battle Report number 4, and we're going to see exactly how this tactic works up again. So, once again, this is the Tercio campaign featuring me, Commander Cheapskate of the Empire, versus my buddy Burps of Blood of the Ogre Kingdoms. So, sit back, relax, and let's see if Empire handgunners and pikemen can stamp against a massive horde of 300+ pound ogres with nothing more than gunpowder weapons, halberdiers, and just the guts to stand and win. In case you forgot what the tercios were all about, during this time period of 15th to 16th centuries in Europe, European armies were experimenting using firearms inside their armies, and so one of the first developments of using firearms was the tercio. The tercio basically was one giant block of pikemen, usually about 1,000 strong, and on either side of these pikemen they'd be supported by units of handgunners on the flanks, and then they'd also be supported with additional units of light cavalry around the exposed flanks, patrolling around the main block to protect it from any incoming cavalry charges. So the last time I used this tercio build, it got slaughtered against high elves, so I reflected on what we did well, what we did bad about this tactic, and now my army list has been adjusted and improved. Instead of having like 4 handgunner units, I decided to make them as a detachment now, and we'll talk about that more in detail when we get to my army list. And I've also included more pistoliers, about twice as many. And in this battle, when we rolled off to see what kind of battle me and Burps of Blood were fighting against, we rolled for the mountain pass. And so the mountain pass is actually to my advantage because it presents a narrow frontage for the ogres to charge at, and it gives me a long axis of fire to shoot upon my opponents from long distances. So we'll see how this one goes.
Crom, I've never prayed you before. I have no tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad, why we fought, or why we died. No. All that matters is that 2 stood against many. That's what's important. Valor pleases you, Crom. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then the hell with you.
Alright, so now it's time to talk about our army list. First up is my Imperial Tercio build, the Eisenkreuz Brigade, a 3,000 point Empire army. And the Eisenkreuz Brigade in German basically means the Iron Cross Free Brigades, is what that is. And this is my Blades, Bullets, and Balls Brigade build. So let's go on and talk about my Lords and Heroes real fast. For my General, I have a General of the Empire. His name is Oberst Gottfried the Eisenkreuz, basically Colonel Gottfried the Iron Cross. He has a full plate armor, shield, and great weapon. Comes in at 113 points. Next after that is my Captain of the Empire, Hauptmann Hans Jäger, Captain Hans Jäger. He has full plate armor, a shield, great weapon, and he's also my battle standard bearer for 99 points. Now comes my core choices. My core choice this time is one giant unit of 80 halberdiers with a sergeant, a standard bearer, musician, and instead of having 4 20-man handgun units, I decided to combine them all and make them detachments instead. So this unit has 2 40-man handgunner detachments. So, you're looking at what is that, 160 models just right there, and they're called the Eisenblut, which means in German the Iron-Blooded, and that unit alone costs 1,230 points. So over a third of my army is just right there in that one single unit. So, it might be a giant risk to take it because if I lose that unit, I basically will lose the game, but, we'll see what happens. Next comes my special choices. I have 4 10-man units of Pistoliers, the 1st Dragooner, 2nd Dragooner, 3rd Dragooner, and 4th Dragooner. And the word Dragooner is German for the word Dragoon, which means mounted riflemen. So during this time period, men with rifles ride horses and ride around and shoot their opponents. And this is more of the classical Tercio build traditionally as well, so I'm going to try to see how that works out as well. I also have 4 great cannons coming out at 480 points, and then 1 motor team, again at 100 points. And then finally, my rare choices are 2 Hellblaster volley guns at 240 points for a grand spanking total of 2,982 points. And now let's talk about Burps of Blood's build for his army. His army is called the Red Ruin. It's a 3,000 point army build. So let's go ahead and talk about his Lords and Heroes real quick. His first one is Burps of Blood. That's his Tyrant. He has an additional hand weapon, heavy armor, and the Talisman of Preservation, and he comes in at 218 points. Next comes Bjorn the Butcher, who's a Slaughter Master with a level 4 upgrade. He also has Grit Sickles as well as Armor of Destiny, so that comes in at 332 points. After that, we have his Bruiser, Crimson Cruvy. He is armed with an additional hand weapon. He has heavy armor, and he's also his army's battle standard bearer. After that comes Hot Pies, the Firebelly. He's a level 2 upgraded Firebelly with additional hand weapon and the magic item of Fencer's Blades, which looks like a pretty deadly unit because Fencer's Blade gives you a weapon skill of 10, so that's kind of scary. Alright, and then he finishes up his hero choices with 2 Hunters, Svetlana of the Snows, armed with an additional hand weapon, and Helga of the Harrow, armed with additional hand weapons as well. After that, we go to his core choices. He has 6 Ogres, the Breakers, with a Crusher, a Bellower, a Standard Bearer, and additional hand weapons at 216 points, followed by another unit of Ogres, an 8-man unit of Ogres, the Northern Cousins, with Crusher, Bellower, Standard Bearer, and additional hand weapons for 278 points. And then finally, rounding up his core choices are 6 Iron Guts, the Wreckers, with a Gut Lord, a Bellower, a Standard Bearer, and the Banner of the World Dragon, which is really kind of scary, so I'm going to try to make sure that unit doesn't get close up to me in hand-to-hand combat. His special choices consist of 4 Lead Belchers, the named after paint. Oh, I see what he did there, named after paint because of the paint color. Okay, that's pretty cool. Anyway, so they have a Thunder Fist and a Bellower at 192 points. He also has 2 Sabertusk packs with 2 Sabertusks. One's called Svetlana's pack and one's called Helga's pack. And then he has 4 Mornfang Cavalry, the Crushers, with a Crusher, a Bellower, a Standard Bearer, a Heavy Armor, and Iron Fists for 310 points. And his 2 rare choices are a Nobbler Scrap Launcher, the Mangler, at 130 points, and an Iron Blaster called the Bone Breaker, with a total of 170 points. And that gives his grand total for his army 2,918 points. Here's a series of pictures for our deployment. In this picture, you can see the 1st and 2nd Dragooner with the Ice and Blood handgunners on the left-hand side, supported by a volley gun and 2 cannons right behind them. In this picture, we have the main center point, which is my Halberdiers, supported by the 2nd unit of handgunners on the right-hand side and 2 volley guns on this one as well. This shot shows the 3rd and 4th cannon in the tower with my 3rd and 4th Dragooner. And in this shot here, you can see my opponent's army. He has his Hunters ahead of his formations with Lead Belchers, Iron Blasters, and 8 Ogres on that side. Followed by this shot with his Iron Guts with Tyrant and Bruiser, his Scrap Launcher, his Ogres with his Slaughter Master and his Firebelly, and on the very far flank there, his Mornfang Cavalry. And in this battle, I get to go first, so let's start with turn number 1. So we begin with turn number 1. We start with our Vanguards first. As you can see in this picture, I move out my Pistoliers to intercept his Hunters and his Sabertusks. At the same time, my opponent moves up his Hunters and Sabertusks as well because we both have Vanguard units. Which brings us to the Empire move phase. Other than that, I really don't move all that much. I just keep my Pistoliers there and their pattern to hold up the Hunters and the Sabertusks. I don't charge. I want to keep them at distance because Pistoliers get 2 shots with pistols with quick-to-fire rules attached to them. So their main thing is to stand back and shoot at things. So I'm keeping my Pistoliers at distance. And nothing else needs to move my army, so that's movement. And since I don't have a magic phase because I know wizards, we go straight to Empire shooting phase.
This is my boomstick!
And in this picture, you can see my Pistoliers killing that Sabertusk and winning a Hunter on the left-hand side. So, hooray! You know, that's 20 pistol shots going on that one, so that was kind of nice. In this picture, my other 20 Pistoliers kill the Sabertusk and wound a Hunter on the right-hand side. So far my Pistoliers are getting rid of his Vanguards. In this picture, my cannons open up and kill half of the Iron Guts unit, so we're bringing them right on that one. I forgot to take a picture of this, but my cannons on my tower, the Mornfangs on my far right-hand flank, I open up my cannons on that unit and I kill half of those guys as well. And since there's no combat phase, that pretty much ends round 1 for, sorry, not round 1, turn 1 for my Empire army. And that brings us to the Ogre Kingdoms turn for their movement phase. So here's a picture of the Ogre Kingdoms movement. Everything in his army pretty much just marches forward and gets bogged down the river, and the Hunters charge their respective Pistolier units. So the Hunters are upset that I killed their Sabertusks, so Burps of Blood sends them forward to pin up my Pistolier units. Everything else marches. In the magic phase, this is where things get interesting. In this picture, he gets off the spell Troll Guts, giving his Iron Guts a 4-up ward save, and he gets it with Irresistible Force.
Klaatu, Veranda.
I'm sorry, not ward save. I meant regeneration save. But anyways, he gives him a +up regeneration save. But he rolls a 9 on the miscast table and takes a wound and loses some power dice, but that's all that happens, so that's not so bad for him. And in this picture, he casts his Brain Gobbler on my unit of Pistoliers, and my Pistoliers flee 5 inches. Which brings us to the Ogre's shooting phase. And in this picture, the Ogres open up with his Scrap Launcher and kills 10 of my Halberdiers. So that Scrap Launcher is a beast, especially with Killing Blow. You know, my guys are only a toughness of 3, so luckily for me, though, it's a small template. But man, 10 of my Halberdiers just killed just like that in that picture. It's that was pretty brutal.
He didn't fall? Inconceivable! You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Opens up with his Iron Blaster in this picture, and he misses my Pistoliers completely. And his Lead Belchers open up, and you know, those things are pretty deadly when they shoot, but he only kills 1, and I laugh at his pathetic attempt at shooting me. Of course, he's upset, but you know, I don't really care. It was kind of cool. We then go into the combat phase on this one. So on this picture, you can see on the right-hand side, his Hunter kills 4 of my Pistoliers, but when my Pistoliers return attacks, he dies in the process. So that was kind of nice. On the left-hand side, however, his Hunter kills 5 of my Pistoliers. My troops take a break test. They don't even inflict anything on that Hunter. They take a break test, they flee, the Hunter pursues, and utterly destroys them. So the Hunter goes right through the village, chases down my Pistoliers, ends up on the other side of the village. And that's pretty much his combat phase on that one. And here's a picture of the end of turn 1. That Hunter is now in open range of my guns, and my Pistoliers are down to 75% of their total numbers. So, not so bad. I'm kind of sad I lost that unit of Pistoliers, but, you know, this is war. Things like that are bound to happen. Which brings us to turn number 2. So, Empire move phase. As you can see in this picture, all my Pistoliers do is that they rally and turn around to face the Ogres again. So, my Pistoliers are ready to go. Empire magic, since we really don't have magic in this army, we can totally skip that, and that brings us to Empire shooting phase.
This is my boomstick!
In this picture, my Pistoliers open up on the Iron Blaster and inflicts 2 wounds in that bad boy, so that's kind of nice. And in this picture, 40 handgunners open up on that one Hunter that flow through the village, and they execute that Hunter firing squad style, and she is gone. And since none of my units are in hand-to-hand combat, we go straight to the Ogre movement phase. And as you can see in this picture, the Iron Guts, the Ogres, the Mournfangs, they all declare charges, and my Pistoliers flee in reaction, and they win. So that didn't ever do much good for my opponent. The Iron Blasters and the Lead Belchers on the other side move off to the flank and hide among the houses, you know, trying to seek shelter away from my artillery. And we enter Ogre Magic phase. As you can see in this picture, my opponent rolls for a boosted Great Maw with Irresistible Force. Unfortunately for him, though, his Great Maw spell goes way off and scatters too far, and it does nothing. But now he has to worry about rolling on the miscast table.
Klaatu! Miranda!
Rolls on the miscast and gets a 5. Luckily for him, though, nobody gets hurt. So that whole my hope of him like really losing his magic caster didn't really do any good. So he's quite lucky that way, I suppose. Burps of Blood, man, he just lucks out and nothing sticks to him in terms of miscasts.
This is my boomstick!
Shooting phase, though, is doing a lot better. That flippin' Scrap Launcher of his fires and kills another 8 of my Halberdiers with another direct hit. I mean, what's going on? Is it just me, or does all my opponent's stone thrower type weapons always work? Why can't my motor do this kind of stuff? You know, that's kind of sad. But, you know, good for my opponent. He kills 8 more of my Halberdiers, so my Halberdiers are slowly being wilted away by a Scrap Launcher fired by Nobblers full of, like, scrap weapons and pieces of metal. But, you know, it is what it is. And since nobody's engaged in combat, that brings us to the end of turn 2 for the Ogres. And now that brings us to the top of turn 3. So we start off once again with Empire Move phase. And in this picture, all I do for my movement is that my Pistoliers, all my units just rally. That's all I do. I reposition my Pistoliers to turn on to face their opposing opponents. My Pistoliers are doing really well in this battle. I'm kind of liking it. I kind of suckered in his main line right into the center of the field of fire that I have planned out right there in the middle of the battlefield. So I'm looking forward to that one. Since my army doesn't use magic, that heads us straight into the shooting phase.
For that arrogance, I shall see you dead.
Yeah.
And just when you thought you were going to get another boomstick clip, I changed it with another clip from Army of Darkness. Anyways, we're going to our shooting phase. And so, once again, my opponent's main line is dragged right into the center of the battlefield of my kill zone that I had set up. And now I get to bring the pain. So all of my cannons, my handgunners, and my volley guns open up on that iron guns unit right there in the center. And I kill all of his men. And once I get through with all of his men, I finally kill his tyrant. And his ward saves cannot save him whatsoever. The death of his general causes all of his units within 12 inches to panic, and as you can see in this picture, his 2 ogre units fail their panic checks and they flee right back towards the river, and that's just freaking awesome. And that gives me another turn to shoot at him as they come at me, so right now my plan is working great. And on the right flank there, you can see in the picture there, my pistolers on the right flank open up and kill another Morfang, but that unit passes its panic check, and since we have no combat, we are done with this part of my turn. And as you can see in this picture, the top of his movement phase, after he gets done moving, Burps of Blood's Ogre units finally do rally, they turn it back, so that's kind of nice. His 2 Ogre units are now lined up ready to have to do the long slog across the battlefield. And his Iron Blaster and Lead Belchers there, they get through the village and face my handgunners on the left flank. So they get to the village and they're gonna bring the pain. Which brings us back to the Ogre Magic phase. Burps of Blood's Firebelly gets off a level 1 Fireball spell on my Pistoliers, and he kills 3 of them. So that causes them to take a panic check. They fail their panic check, and they flee right for the hills. So good for my opponent. It's about time something on my side gets to finally run away from damage. As for his shooting phase, his Iron Blaster does a great job, as well as his Lead Belcher. They also open up on my handgunners, and they kill 8 of them. Which is not that bad, though. It could have been a lot worse, in my opinion. I mean, he could have rolled a 10 on that Iron Blaster and then killed 10. He could have gotten maximum rolls on those Lead Belchers and tore my guys to pieces. But, 8 handgunners is pretty respectable. Normally, though, that unit would have to take a panic check, but because they're within the leadership bubble of my general, because they are detachments, they benefit from his hold the line rule, and same thing with my standard bearer as well. And they also go off as unmodified leadership because of inspiring presence. So in the previous battle with the leadership check my handgunner units, they usually fled for the hills, and that was all kinds of bad. But in this one, though, it looks like changing up and making detachments is working for my benefit. So that's looking good so far. And since there's no combat going on in this round, we head off straight to turn number 4. Which brings us to turn number 4. So if you see in this picture here, my Pistoliers in the center rally, and my Pistoliers on the left-hand side pull back and prepare for the next round of Ogre movement. So aside from that, not much movement going on. And since we don't believe in magic in this army, we move on to the shooting phase.
This is my boomstick!
As you can see in this picture here, on the left-hand flank, my volley gun, handgunners, and the cannons on the left-hand side open up on the Lead Belchers and the Iron Blaster, and they cut loose on those 2 units. They destroy the Iron Blaster, so that thing is gone, and only one of the Lead Belchers is left, but he passes his panic check, so that doesn't go there. And unfortunately, I forgot to take this picture, but the Ogre unit with the Wizards in it takes hit from my cannons, and I also kill half the unit on that one. And since we don't have any combat phase in the Empire Army, we move on to Ogre movement phase. As you can see in this picture, basically the Ogres are just marching forward again, just trying to get back across as quickly as they can. They lost a lot of ground when they failed their panic test. As you can see, they're moving there. And in this picture, you can see how the Morfang charged my Pistoliers, but my Pistoliers flee as a charge reaction, so the charge fails. And as you can see in this picture, for the magic phase for the Ogres, the Firebelly opens up with a level 2 Fireball spell and kills 4 more Pistoliers in that unit. And you can see in this picture, the Pistoliers fail their panic test and they flee again. Which brings us to the shooting phase, and praise Sigmar on this one. The Scrap Launcher fires this time, but instead of getting another direct hit on this turn, it gets scattered a little bit. So in the end, the template only hits about 2 of my guys. Now, sadly, those 2 guys are dead, but it's better than that for a glancing blow than the one they've been getting the entire time. And since there's no combat for this turn, that brings us at the end of turn number 4. So here is the top of turn 5 after movement for the Empire. As you can see here, all my remaining Pistolier units rally and turn to face their opponents, so That's not much movement going on over there. There's no magic in this battle for my guys because we don't believe in magic, so that brings us to Empire shooting on this one. As you can see in this picture, my Pistoliers on the right shoot and finally finish the Morfang. And in this picture, my Pistoliers on the left open up and kill 2 Ogres and inflict another wound. And that unit fails its panic test, and it also runs. And once again, I forgot to take a picture of this, but the cannons open up and kill another one of the Ogres in the Wizard unit. You know, forgive me. There's a lot of action going on. I can't get all the photos, so I'm sorry. And since there's no combat this round, that rounds up my Empire's turn for turn number 5. So we go to the Ogres' turn. So for the Ogres, for their movement phase, the Ogres on the right march forward again, and the Ogres on the left fail to rally and keep on continuing to run. And that's pretty much it for the Ogres. Turn 5 is pretty much a wash from them. They don't really do much for magic. There's no shooting and no combat. So turn 5 ends up being the most unimportant round in the entire battle. So that brings us to turn number 5. And as you see in this picture, all of my units, my Pistolier units, they either rally and move to face themselves, to face that last Ogre unit right there in the middle of the battlefield with all the wizards located at. So now all my units are in pretty good optimal positions to open fire that unit and finish it off. And since we don't have magic in this army, we head straight to the shooting phase.
This is my boomstick!
And this is also the phase where basically the entire game ends. Everything in my army opens up. Both my units of handgunners, all my cannons, all my volley guns, and my 2 Pistolier units right there in the middle, and they totally obliterate the Ogres and the Wizards. And that pretty much ends the game. My opponent at that point kind of surrenders and gives up, so that brings us to the end of the game.
Sure, I could have stayed in the past. Could have even been king. But in my own way, I am king.
Hail to the king, baby.
So, after so many battle reports, I finally get a victory on this one. So, just like as all my other battles, this is the after-action review of this particular battle for battle number 4 of the Tercio campaigns. The battle between myself, Commander Cheapskate of the Empire, versus Burps of Blood of the Ogre Kingdoms. So, during this portion of the show, we talk about what went well, what went badly, and how we can improve and learn for the next battle. So, in this one, though, since this is one of my first victories ever with this tactic, I'm really excited to talk about what I thought was really good about this. First of all, detached rules saved my handgunners so many times in this battle. There was a couple of times where my handgunners took a lot of damage, and in most cases they probably would have failed their break checks, just like we did the last time in the previous battle, but because they were detached to my halberdier unit, they got benefited from my general's leadership, as well as hold the line, as well as any rerolls necessary for the battle standard bearer there as well. So I'm pretty sure that the detachment's working really, really well on that one. Another benefit of this battle were the Pistoliers. My Pistoliers were awesome in this battle. I'm not sure why there's so much hatred towards these units. I mean, if you look up on the wikis, as well if you look on the message boards, YouTube videos, things of that nature, people really, bash the Pistoliers. They say they cost me points and that, they shouldn't be a special choice. They should be a core choice and things like that. But I'm not sure what they're talking about because being able to shoot and move with quick to fire, you just can't beat it. And there are so many times where a lot of my opponents' units were being shot to pieces by these Pistoliers time and time again. And every single time Burps of Blood tried to charge him with his Ogres, they just simply ran away, turned around, and then shot that unit again. So definitely be keeping the Pistoliers in this army, and definitely at the numbers I'm filling them at. 4 units of 10, you can't beat it. It's pretty wicked. Magic is still a problem. It wasn't much of an issue this time, unlike the previous battle because the Hyles just dominated with the magic phase on this one. This one, there was a couple of moments where it got kind of close. I mean, the boosted version of the Great Moss spell, that could have been totally horrifically used against my halberdiers and just totally eat them up. So magic is still a problem, but I absolutely refuse to use magic or wizards in this unit. So I'm going to get around that problem and get kind of creative with it. Maybe I might take some additional handgunner units to include some Hockland long rifles to snipe at wizards. I'm not sure yet. I'm just going to have to see what we're going to do for that one. So this army has been updated and adjusted since the previous build, and so far I like the way this build is working so far. It's doing pretty good. So I'll be using this build for my army in the next foreseeable few battle reports and see what happens next time. And if anything needs to be changed, I'll just adjust as always. So that'll wrap it up for battle number 4 of the Tercio campaigns. This is Commander Cheapskate signing off. And remember, no matter where you're going, there you'll be. I'll see you next time.